watched the debate last night. I didn't tweet it. I felt like it should just stand on its own. The two of them, didn't need my help or my critique, frankly, in my opinion. In fact, actually, there were times during the debate, and I don't know if you feel this way or if this was just me. I did not grow up in a household where my parents fought. In fact, I have literally no recollection of my parents ever arguing about anything throughout my lifetime, other than one time when we were on vacation and it was about whether or not we should go to Lake Michigan or not, which I remember my mom was pretty emphatic about. But she grew up on Lake Michigan in Charlottesville. But in any case, the feeling I got was this must be what kids feel like when mom and dad are arguing all the time. And it just, Louise was like, this is a great debate. Wow, lots of great topics and all, and I was like, well, yeah, I mean, actually, here's my main takeaway from this. Times change. And I think that what has happened, particularly to Secretary Clinton, is that times have changed around her, and she's running really fast to catch up with them, to her credit. And if she's our party's nominee, the positions she's been taking increasingly, I'm very pleased about. It's interesting. I was reading a piece in one of the, political wonk journals this morning saying, well, no, Hillary should have just embraced the third way from the get-go. This was this guy's argument. That, she should have said, no, world trade is a good thing. And, not breaking up the banks is a good thing. And we should just, being a corporate friend, and went through that list. But instead, she put her toe in the water of going toward the left, and now Bernie's always going to out-left her. Well, there's some truth to that. The problem is, I think the third way is dead. I think the DLC is dead. There's a whole generation coming up who are, it's not that they're rejecting Hillary. It's not that they're embracing Bernie. It's not like there's like, 20, 30, 40 million people under 30 years old who have been sitting around going, gee, I wish a 74-year-old Jew would jump into the race. It's not like that at all. What it is the positions that Bernie has been espousing. I mean, keep in mind, there was a draft Warren movement that Elizabeth Warren refused to react to. And when she refused, and throughout that time, Senator Sanders, on this program anyway, was speaking very well as Senator Warren. And, I don't remember a specific statement he made, but I certainly remember the having a very, very strong sense that he wished that she would be in the race. She didn't get in the race, and so he did. But I think this is like, it's a very, very, very imperfect analogy. But and I know that if I say this, I will be the subject of a Hillary bot Twitter war. But c'est la vie. There have been a number of politicians in the history of my lifetime, certainly, who have basically changed their positions because times changed. I mean, I think the example that's probably most obvious to people who are probably over 20 or over 30 who remember Robert Byrd from the Senate. I mean, this is a guy who back in the day, like 50, 60 years ago, he's dead now. He died in his early 90s, as I recall, who had been a member of the KKK. And the senator from West Virginia, and he became one of the staunchest defenders of civil rights and African Americans' rights. And he went through a complete come to Jesus moment conversion. That's probably the most extreme example. There are numerous other examples of politicians kind of waking up and doing the right thing. Charlie Crist down in Florida, he was a Republican, and he said, my party has gone crazy. I'm going to become a Democrat. moving almost in the opposite direction. Bernie Sanders had always been an independent. He said, I'll become a Democrat. And he's going to stay a Democrat. And he's going to work for the Democratic Party, he said. So the DLC third way zeitgeist, from where I'm sitting, it looks to me that this whole idea that Al Fromm had back in 1987, 88, that he pitched to Bill Clinton in 88, 89. I'd have to dig out Al Fromm's book and get you the exact dates. But he wrote a whole book about it. And talks about, going down to Arkansas and recruiting Bill Clinton and saying, I'll make you president, if you do all this kind of stuff. That, that was a blip in our nation's history that I think has passed, where the Republican Party was moving more and more toward the hard corporate right and the hard religious right, and the Democratic Party said, okay, we can move to the right also. And basically for, 25 years, abandoned many, not all, not even most, but abandoned some of their core principles, the absolute bedrock stuff, like you can't have a middle class without unions. You can't have a strong middle class without unions. And you can't have, you can't talk about environmentalism without taking on the big polluters, even if they're big donors. You can't talk about economic inequality without taking on both the rich and the banksters. And I one of the things that this was the area where Senator Sanders was most successful, I think, last night in the debate. Where Secretary Clinton was most successful, I think, was, in asserting a competence. And I know these things. I know the details. It's interesting. I was watching I was on Twitter, a clip from Morning Joe's show this morning, where they played a clip of Bernie from the debate last night, and they were asking, one of the corporate shills that Joe always has on his show, what's the deal here? And he was like, well, Bernie doesn't have any specifics. And Hillary seemed to have a lot of specifics. Well, I think both of them are actually talking in terms of leadership. Bill Clinton was famous for his 20-point plan for this and a 16-point plan for that. And he was just a total policy wonk, and he had all these plans for everything. But the president, what is the old cliche, man plans and God laughs? The president can provide moral authority and leadership, but most of these things actually need to be done by Congress. There's a million details. You bring in the experts and say, okay, I want to break up the big banks. Now you five people who really understand how banks work, and you really understand all this legislation that's been passed over the years, and you really understand where all these loopholes came from, write the bill that's going to take them apart. I don't expect my presidential candidate to do that. I expect them to have the leadership capabilities to pull those people together and make it happen. I expect my presidential candidate to have a moral compass to make that happen. And I think that that's certainly the case with Senator Sanders, and I think it's pretty much the case with Secretary Clinton. So, like I said, I was. The debate made me uncomfortable. To watch more clips from our programs, hit the Watch More Videos button over here. And please be sure to hit the handy-dandy subscribe button so you'll always be up to date. Tag, you're it.